It's only slightly tongue-in-cheek that we had a longer than typical time between podcasts, given that this week's episode is a topic about fasting. So, speaking about things to avoid, I find it really funny that we seem to get the most feedback when we discuss Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Which reminds me, Anne, did you break down and buy some Bitcoin yet?
No, sure haven't. Just watching the hilarity of, new news every day. What was I think I sent you a link, something about South Korea has not banned cryptocurrencies, but banned mining cryptocurrencies. What was it?
They were discussing banning the exchange of cryptocurrencies for the South Korean currency. So the idea being that if people were to use cryptocurrencies in South Korea, then don't bother trying to exchange it for, was it yuan is what they have over there, or won?
Yuan is the Chinese. I think the Korean is just WON, won.
Correct. The indigenous South Korean currency. Don't try to exchange cryptocurrency for that one. They're going to refuse it or consider it illegal. I don't know what the penalty is. You're not supposed to. They're talking about outlawing it. I don't know what the penalty is. But just on the news alone.
And what did Bitcoin do? Bitcoin prices dropped 90% in 90 seconds or something.
I don't know if it was 90%. There was a discernible drop, and then it did I don't know if it was a dead cat bounce or if it actually came back up. But I remember when you sent me the link, I looked up the prices over on Coinbase or whatever website it is, and there was a discernible drop, and it was across all the cryptocurrencies. But it's the news is that they haven't banned it yet. They're just talking about it. But this is yet another sign, something that can move that fast just on a regulator saying we might want to regulate it or ban it. This isn't a store of value. This is a highly speculative, not even a security, because I don't think securities move that fast just on word. I mean, aside from Apple stuff. I mean, if Apple says we're going to build a new product based on some small company you'd never heard of, their technology, then that company might shoot through the roof all of a sudden. But Apple tends to buy those companies before they make an announcement. But the point is, it's not a store of value. It's not a currency. Currency should be stable. Your store of value should be reliable. And something that goes up, 20% or 100% in a day can fall that much just as fast.
Exactly. As we discussed, I believe in episode 40, I think it was, markets that have integrity just simply don't behave like that. If a market gets too out of whack to the upside or to the downside, that attracts in speculative arbitrageurs who are going to be able to, do some sort of a transaction to bring the market back into some sort of a reasonable equilibrium. And all of this hyper volatility that you're seeing with Bitcoin and all these cryptocurrencies, that is a pure manifestation of the fact that these markets do not have that fundamental integrity that is absolutely essential. You can't pretend that this is going to be able to replace the dollar, the euro in Europe. I mean, and goodness knows we're all fully aware of the problems, the massive problems that exist with the US dollar, that exist with all of these, fiat currencies, of course, but the solution to that isn't going to something that's several orders of magnitude more sketchy. We need to be working back towards integrity, not just diving off the deep end into, even less integrity. That's not the solution. And I think I might have told you this story in a telephone call this week, super nerd, about, and it tied directly to what I think we were also talking about in episode 40. I told the anecdote about in 2000 at the top of the dot-com bubble that the UPS driver came into the commodity office and said, "Oh my gosh, you guys, you all need to be getting into this stock market and you need to be buying these dot-com stocks."
Yeah, that goes to the shoeshine boy with JP Morgan.
Exactly. And so as soon as he leaves and walks out the door, one of the other brokers that was in my office picked up the phone and called his biggest equities trading client and said, "I need to tell you what just happened." And, the guy started getting that was kind of the signal that you needed to start looking for a top, buying puts, something like that, And
the only part of the story you didn't tell is how much did that client on the other end of the line, because he put some expensive bet on futures. How much did he make on that? or is it not
I can't
known?
remember. And the thing about picking tops and things like that is that in retrospect, you can look back at a chart of the high going in at the top of the .com bubble and then the whole thing collapsing. And you can look at that and you can say, well, good heavens, you'd have to be an imbecile to not make an absolute killing off of that. But that's the thing about spec trading markets, is that it's a completely different animal in real time. And sure, you might sell at or near the top, but the odds that you're going to hang on to that position and ride it all the way down, no, it almost never happens. People who sell at or near top almost always take profits on the position, way, 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 way early. That's just the nature of the beast, man. You can't predict the future. And so when you're in real time, and that is a rule of good trading, is that you should be content to take a profit.
I would imagine there's probably, if you can't leave emotion at the door and base all your trades on rationality, it's like playing cards. If you can't evaluate the hand you have based on pure mathematics and your odds of winning, and you're getting emotional about how much you're betting in, and you're going to just keep betting more and more because you can't stand to lose that much, you probably should be doing something else with your money.
Oh, absolutely. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But so what happened is that just a couple of days ago, here in Riverville 2, not far from where I live, there's a nice little restaurant, and I frequent this place from time to time. Very, very nice, owned by some kind of a nice family, and go in there and sit down, and we've had some very mild conversations, and they don't know who I am, but they just very roughly know that I used to be in finance. I mean, that came up at one point when I was in there for dinner one night and just chatting with them. And so I go in, I sit down, look at the menu, place my order, and the waiter comes back and he says, you used to be in finance and all of that, right? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, can I ask you something? I said, sure. And he said, my family and I, we've got this nest egg and we've kind of saved up. Do you think we should put that into Bitcoin? I just chuckled to myself, because this is kind of the UPS driver redux, it seemed to me, when the waiter at the restaurant is coming up to you and asking if he should plow his entire family's nest egg and life savings into Bitcoin. I think that's some sort of a signal. And of course, I without getting into excruciating detail, because he still had to be working there in the restaurant, I kind of just mildly went over things with him and said, there's nothing backing it. There's nothing behind it. It's even less real than our paper money is. And that our paper money is extremely problematic in terms of having anything behind it. And oh yes, he kind of understood that as a smart guy, and then just kind of kept talking through and talking about the volatility, and I said, it looks really enticing, the fact that it's going up so hard and so fast, but what that actually is that's a signal that this market is not healthy. It's not legitimate, because if it were legitimate, there'd be all kinds of liquidity and people would be coming in and there wouldn't be these huge spikes up and down. He said, oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes absolute sense. And then the last thing I hit him with is, you could buy Bitcoin all day long. They'll take your money all day long. The problem is what happens if you want to get out and you want to convert it back into our currency. And he didn't really have much of an understanding of how illiquid it was on the other side of the transaction, of how difficult it is to move, especially any significant amount of money out of a cryptocurrency and back into something that you can, actually use to pay your bills or pay off your mortgage or whatever. So I just thought it was really funny that after we had that conversation and told the story about the UPS driver, that something a very similar dynamic happened just a few days ago.
It's an evergreen question. And, we get emails, probably more emails on the cryptocurrency discussions than anything else. I think we're probably going to have to do another episode or two on the topic in general, and not just Bitcoin, because there's a lot of them. And there are a lot of cryptocurrencies, and some of them are making their big play on the fact that the blockchain technology and some of the other things Yeah, it's a discussion to go into another day. But one of the things you mentioned that there's nothing backing Bitcoin. The question of what backs the U.S. dollar. Well, if you were able to ask Saddam Hussein, he would tell you that the U.S. military backs the U.S. dollar to the point that one of the popular theories is that he wanted to decouple the Iraqi oil trade from the U.S. dollar and start selling oil in euros. And okay, we're getting into conspiracy theory land here with this, but the point is that there were two known, let's say, people who can control their countries who said we were going to stop selling oil in terms of U.S. dollars, and one of them was euros. That was Hussein. And one of them was Gaddafi. He said he wanted to create some new.
He wanted to create his own,
gold dinars. It was going to be gold-backed dinars. He was going to relaunch that, and neither one of them are still around. Coincidence? Maybe, maybe not. Who else is clamoring loudly to decouple the dollar from oil?